Chapter 6. Josiah's Missing. A story told by Joseph. On the day of the betrothal, I was awake and upright before anyone else had opened their eyes. I sawed a hunk of bread from the previous day's loaf and paced around chewing it. I put on my best tunic, which my mother had washed specially, then changed my mind and switched it for the ordinary work one. I paced around some more. I stood up and sat down a few times, then I decided to go and fetch water from the well. Normally that was my mother's job, but she was still asleep, and I needed to be busy. There were a few women there already, and they laughed as I drew near. "Will you fetch water for your wife when you are married, Joseph?" "I wish I had a husband like you," said another. I fumbled to fix the jar to the rope, embarrassed. Eventually my fingers and thumbs managed to tie the knot. I let the jar down into the well until I heard a splash. Then I hauled it back up again. It was heavy. I tried to lift it up onto my head like the women do, but it slopped everywhere, tipping water all down the back of my neck. Good thing I changed my tunic. Now there were more women arriving, and every single one of them was laughing at me. I stood there foolishly shivering, then picked up the jar again, hugging it against my chest, this time, and hoping it wouldn't slip out of my grasp. "Joseph!" My mother had appeared, tutting. She took the jar off me and swung it smoothly onto her head, steadying it there with one sun-browned hand. Then she set off home. I stumbled after her, feeling like an idiot. "You're up early," my mother said. "Where did your brother go?" "Josiah? I don't know," I answered. "He was asleep when I left." "Is he not now?" "No." She pressed her lips together, but said nothing else. When we were home and I had spent a bit more time pacing up and down, my mother tutted again and sent me out. "Go and see if Mary's mother needs anything for the meal," she told me. "And if you see your brother, tell him he must not be late." I went around to the edge of the village so as to avoid passing the well again, and was soon walking up through the almond grove to where Mary's house sat on the rising hill. Her mother was outside, kneading dough. Abigail sat beside her. The little girl started giggling excitedly when she saw me. "Joseph," Mary's mother said, looking surprised. "You are not all coming already?" No, I said, trying to be respectful and not to look at Abigail, who was beginning to dance around, clapping her hands and moving slowly like she was wearing heavy wedding clothes. "You'll dance like this," she whispered, "and we'll all sing and clap our hands like that." "Stop that, Abby," said her mother. They are not getting married yet. It is just the engagement." This was what had been agreed. We would pledge ourselves to one another today, and I would give money and gifts to Mary and her family. Then we would all celebrate with a meal. In a year's time, once I had built an extra room on my parents' house, we would be married, and Mary would officially become part of my family. "I just came to ask if there was anything you need," I said to Mary's mother as Abigail sat down again. "For the meal, I mean. Ma sent me." "Ah," she said, "no, I think we have everything." She went on kneading. I hovered uncertainly. "Mary's gone to fetch water," said Abigail with a knowing grin. "And when she comes back, she has a lot to do," added her mother, "as do we all. Abigail, could you fetch Reuben, please? I have a job for him." But Abigail came back almost at once, shrugging. Not there, she said. Josiah is missing too, I said, biting my lip. Oh, may the Lord help us, cried Mary's mother. She cast her eyes to the sky. Those two! But she had nothing more to say, and I went off feeling unwelcome. At last it was time. We set off, just the three of us, my father grumbling a little about how we lived too far away from my uncle and the rest of the family. If only they could have come, he said, while my mother muttered something about how if Josiah didn't turn up, he'll be in big trouble. We walked through the village, drawing admiring glances from everyone we passed. May the Lord bless you, said an old man, bowing at me. May he build up your family, noted Joanna, the potter's wife, a little further along. My mother beamed at her. Soon we were there. The whole crowd of Mary's family was standing outside her house. Her father's sisters and their husbands and children, her mother's brother and his family, their grandmother leaning on a twisted stick, her mother and father coming forward to meet us, her sister and two brothers, and Mary herself standing in the midst of them, dressed in deep blue with a thin shawl the color of ripened wheat around her head and shoulders. She caught my eye. I felt some of the tension leave my body. But my mother was looking elsewhere. Reuben is there, she hissed. Where's Josiah? Nowhere to be seen. Meanwhile, Reuben skulked behind his uncle, looking shifty. My mother marched straight up to him, ignoring the greeting of Mary's parents. Mary's ma raised her eyebrows, and my heart sank. It was going wrong already. Where's my boy? Ma demanded, jabbing her finger at Reuben's chest. He shrank back, unusually shy, avoiding her gaze. I know you know where he is. Come on, out with it. Then Reuben stammered, He's gone. He's gone to Judea. Judea? I thought about going with him, muttered Reuben, but I came back. He ran his hand through his hair, uncharacteristically nervous. I didn't wait to hear any more. I just ran. I didn't even pause. Was it because I was desperate for my brother to be at my engagement? Or was it because I knew that if he really did go off all the way to the southern part of the kingdom, he'd probably never make it back? To be honest, I don't even know. I didn't stop for long enough to think anything through. Changed your mind? Someone called out as I left the village. But I barely heard. There was only one road out of Nazareth that led southward, and I followed it, feet pounding in the dust, running harder than I'd ever run before. My best clothes were ruined and my whole body drenched with sweat before my thoughts arranged themselves properly, and I slowed to a walk, realizing I wasn't going to catch him. He must have left early in the morning. He was hours ahead of me. Even walking, he'd be far, far away by now. My brother was gone south, where he'd never been before. Gone to find trouble, almost certainly. I stopped in the middle of the road, feeling completely foolish. The words that had followed me out of the village taunted me suddenly. They all think I changed my mind. I might have ruined my chances with Mary forever. I breathed in and out a few times and then sprinted back the way I came. They were all still there. They were crowded around the house, all of them talking at the top of their voices. None of them saw me. I strode forward and grasped Mary by the hand. She pulled a face. Sweaty? Then we laughed, and everyone else started laughing too. It was going to be all right.